just cover what a family office is and what that concept means and where it comes from. So this was actually started by John D. Rockefeller back in 1882, the very first family office in US history. And so what happened is Rockefeller was frustrated with the fact that his CPA and his stockbroker and his banker and his lawyer and his bookkeeper and all of the different people that he had doing different things for him financially, none of them communicated. They didn't work together. They weren't a team, and it was very siloed and it was very fractured, right? And so what ended up happening is that he would get conflicting strategies or conflicting advice or things that didn't mesh well, right? Like imagine hiring a team of employees that don't talk to each other and you're expecting them, to get a certain outcome, and it's like there's no communication, there's no collaboration. And so what he did, being the world's richest man at that time, was he was like, oh, this is easy. I'm just going to go scour the entire country and I'm going to hire all of them on my payroll, and I'm going to be their only client, and they're going to come work for me only, and I'm going to create this family office. And so the lawyer and the CPA and the investment person and all of these different people that are generally, a solo practitioner, they came in and worked for Rockefeller. And so he literally took his wealth and his portfolio and he turned that into a business, right? And so that's the concept, and it became a very successful concept. When you study Standard Oil, which was Rockefeller's main company, the government came in and broke that up in the early 1900s. They said, hey, this thing is too big. You can't have this massive behemoth of a company. You need to break it into smaller chunks, right? And, when you look at what happened when he did that, his net worth actually tripled. And the reason his net worth tripled is because he started focusing on working on his wealth portfolio rather than just running one business. And so he had this coordinated team. So the value of what the family office does is huge. You may see them today still widely used by the top 1%. So these are just a couple of the big names out there that use the family office that you might be familiar with. We've got Oprah, we've got Reed Hastings, the Bloomberg family, Michael Dell, literally his name is on the back of my computer right now. We've got Bill Gates, my computer's running on his software, the Lauder family, the Pritzker family, the Walton family. Those are all these families that are using the family office concept. And so what that tells us is that the 1%, they're not bootstrapping it by themselves. And they're also not working with someone that they're outsourcing to and saying, hey, here's my portfolio. I trust you to do a good job with it. And when I'm 65, it's done and I can come check. They've created this family office structure. Now, the problem here, and this is something that's kind of a barrier, is the cost to run one. Right. So the estimated cost that Oprah pays for her family office is about 10 to 20 million per year just in payroll. Like that's just the fees and the cost of her hiring these people and running that organization. Right. Reed Hastings, 10 to 15 million, Bloomberg, 50 to 100 million, Michael Dell, 150 to 180 million. So these are not small numbers in terms of what it takes for someone to go build this by themselves. And so there's this strange kind of no man's land of I've got enough wealth for it to matter. Maybe my businesses are going well, my investments are going well, my real estate's going well, but I don't have enough resource to build one of these, right? Like think about how much would it cost you to hire just your CPA so you're their only client. Probably six figures around there minimum, right? If they're a good CPA, they might command more in the marketplace. So the idea is how do you build this without the $10 million cost associated? Right. And so that's really what we focus on with my company is putting this virtual family office together for clients that are ready for it, and then helping other people get on the runway to getting there. Right. Because what this means, and I'll kind of share with you the beauty of what this creates and turns into, but what it means is you have an actual team that's running your wealth with you and they're working for you and on your behalf and they're all coordinated. So that's kind of the end goal here at the very tail end. So this is it's the 7 B2F steps. B2F stands for Blueprint to Financial Freedom. There's two F's, that's why the number 2 is in there. But our end goal is getting people ready and into this virtual family office environment. Right. And so what gets me excited for what I do, and the reason I want to help with this is I believe that when the majority of wealth is controlled by good people who have good intentions, good stuff on this planet happens. Right? When the majority of wealth is controlled by people who are malevolent or have bad intentions or that kind of thing, the bad guy from The Simpsons, that kind of personality, I think stuff gets really weird, right? Like I think that's when things go downhill. And so I really get a lot out of and have a lot of passion for finding those who are succeeding in their businesses and in their investments and saying, hey, let's put this together for you because I know you're going to do great things and this is something that can empower someone to get there. So really that's kind of the first key. And then we've got a number of steps we work our clients through, step by step, phase by phase, if they're not ready for it yet, so that they can get there because nobody is out there teaching how do you get your net worth or your income to the level where you could benefit from having a family office set up. Okay, so that's a little bit about what the concept is and where it comes from. I want to give you a little bit of just behind the curtain. How does this work? How does this operate? With our family office, we have a network of over 75 professionals that are specialists in different areas. Right. And so these are some of their faces. We couldn't fit all their bios and stuff on one slide, but we did our best to get them all on here. These are all of the people in the family office that are basically at your disposal. So let's say I'm an investor and I'm growing my net worth and I'm getting to the range where it makes sense to have a family office. For those of you that are maybe wondering that range, typically it's about $1 million net worth, not including the value of your house. It's very similar to the accredited investor thresholds if you're familiar with those. So if your net worth is around 1 million, or if your income is, 250 to 300,000 or more on kind of an ongoing basis, usually there's enough there where it's like, hey, this can start to make sense, right? And so with a team like this, the model works like this: is we've got the larger family office here, and we're focusing on things like risk mitigation. We're focusing on things like wealth management, legal services, business advisory, tax planning. And so that's where these network of 75 specialists live. Now, outside of that, we have what's called a proactive planning team. And so this is essentially us helping you coordinate, hey, who do you need to get connected up with? And let's make sure that project management happens. If we've got deadlines, those are being met. If there's paperwork, that's getting handled, right? And so we're kind of expediting and helping with the admin, helping with the structure and making sure that all of this is running cohesively. Now, here's the beautiful thing with this. We're going to go back to our 75 specialists. Generally speaking, in the real world, none of these people would know each other, let alone agree to work together. Right? Like we just pick 4 or 5 of them, and we all probably already have 4 or 5 of them. You've got your CPA, you've got your attorney, you've got your insurance guy, you've maybe got an investments person, right? You've got someone that's maybe helping you with your legal and estate planning. They're not on a team. And so for me, this was my own problem I wanted to solve first. I was extremely frustrated with this. I would go to my CPA, they would give me 80% of a strategy. I would ask questions and they would say, oh, I'm not an attorney. I can't answer that for you. Okay. Show of hands if you've had that too. Or you go to the investment guy and the investment guy gives you a little bit of a strategy. You start asking some questions and he says, oh, I'm not a CPA, so I can't get into that part. And so you end up with all of these half-baked, non-connected strategies, and it becomes very frustrating. And it adds work in addition to the work that it already takes to win with these different solutions. If you're doing a tax plan, there's already work involved, right? Like we don't need the extra step of running over to the attorney to try and connect the dots because the CPA didn't and the two people don't communicate, right? So imagine you've got all 75 of these people, these specialists, they're all in a network together. They agree to work together and they agree to collaborate with our planning team. And so when you have, a situation that comes up and you're like, just a real life example, I've got a client right now. He's doing very well with his investing in his companies. He's got near $1 million tax liability for 2025, right? And so his CPA is telling him, you can maybe do a little bit of deduction on your rent in your house, and you could max out your 401k plan and get a little deduction there. That doesn't make a dent in $1 million tax bill. Like it's cute, it's a nice thought, but it's not going to get the job done. And so what we did is we went with our proactive planning team and we reviewed his tax returns. We reviewed what he's got going on. We reviewed his businesses and we said, hey, we have 3 or 4 different strategies with 3 or 4 different specialists. Let's go through this process. And this was a little bit of business and personal. Let's go through this process and diagnose what it is that's needed to handle this big tax bill that you have.
Thanks for joining us for part 1 with Jerry Fetta. Be sure to drop us a comment, like, subscribe, and keep an eye out for part 2.